from Wyoming, the senior member of the committee of the House from Wyoming, Ms. Hagerman.
The only. In March, the Miami Herald reported on a team of former U.S. officials and Venezuelans assisting the Trump administration with tracking Tendrigua, or TDA. They have focused on ties between TDA and the Maduro regime, identifying 1,800 gang members sent to our country. Reportedly, 300 received paramilitary training in Venezuela, and the regime has operational control over them. Information obtained by the team from police agencies in South America has resulted in the arrest of at least 800 TDA members or smaller affiliated entities. According to the article, TDA has been setting up a drug distribution system in our country, and the individuals, quote, are not criminals sent to cause havoc. They are soldiers sent in an asymmetrical warfare operation against the United States, end quote.
Fellow patriots, welcome back to your favorite channel, Right View Nation. I've got to say it. The situation we're seeing with Judge Boasberg's order halting deportation flights of known Venezuelan operatives tied to a terror-linked gang is more than just a legal mess. It's a full-blown threat to our national security. So today, I want to break this down, piece by piece, and explain why this decision is outrageous and, frankly, dangerous. For every law-abiding American who loves this country and believes in its sovereignty. Let's start with the facts.
On March 15th, President Trump issued an EO invoking the Alien Enemies Act regarding the TDA invasion. The EO finds that TDA is perpetuating, attempting, and threatening an invasion or predatory incursion against the territory of the United States. TDA is undertaking hostile actions and conducting irregular warfare against the territory of the United States, both directly and at the direction, clandestine or otherwise, of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Judge Boasberg of the D.C. District Court recently ordered the Trump administration to turn around removal flights bound for El Salvador carrying members of this Venezuelan terrorist group, TDA. Judge Boasberg's temporary restraining order at first was limited to the named plaintiffs, but he later provisionally certified a class for, quote, all non-citizens in U.S. custody who are subject to President Trump's order against TDA and its implementation. Mr. Larkin, what are the problems associated with the breadth of this order rather than it having being just applied solely to the parties in front of it?
There seem to be at least two issues. One is whether I'm told, I haven't seen the complaint, but I'm told that the complaint that was filed seeking relief was brought under the Administrative Procedure Act. That's not an appropriate vehicle for this. It should be the federal habeas corpus laws. But secondly, if you're going to grant class-wide relief, you have to first properly certify a class. The Supreme Court has so ruled and has told the district courts that they have to do first the job of certifying the class and only then awarding class relief. In footnote 1 in Baxter versus, I think it's pronounced Palmigiano, but don't hold me to that, the Supreme Court said the district court had gotten it wrong in that case for following the reverse order. So if that's what happened, what happens then is there are steps that you have to go through in order to certify a class. And to my knowledge, although, like I said, I haven't followed that case, I don't know if those steps were followed here. My understanding is that this is the first I've heard of it from you, so.
Well, and there's another problem associated with that as well. In the case involving TDA, the judges and other injunctions that have been issued, nationwide injunctions issued by these courts, they have not been requiring the party seeking the injunction to put up a bond, even though Rule 65 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure mandates that a party seeking a preliminary injunction or TRO must provide security, a bond to cover potential costs and damages to the party who is wrongfully restrained or enjoined. In fact, such a bond is a condition precedent for an injunction to be valid. So in light of that, does this violation or failure to require the posting of a bond undermine, if not actually nullify, the legality of Judge Boasberg's order?
I have to say, and it's going to sound like begging off, but I'm not trying to, that I haven't researched that effect in this sort of context, in part because I'm not sure how you set a bond in a case like this, where what you're talking about is essentially relief that should be granted under the habeas corpus laws. And so to the extent there are separate procedures that you have to follow in a habeas corpus action, I don't know to what extent that part of Rule 65 would apply.
So what I'd like to do is I would encourage you to read the opinion article in the the Wall Street Journal from yesterday entitled "Why Judge Boasberg's Deportation Order is Legally Invalid." And this individual, Daniel Huff, goes through the analysis of what is required under Rule 65 for an injunction to be enforceable.
Yeah.
And one of the problems associated with the decision is the fact that no bonds have been required in these injunctions.
And not every provision in the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure automatically translates over to habeas corpus, and I just don't know if that provision does. If it does, then it has to be addressed. If it doesn't, then you have a different set of rules that you follow.
Would the
Either way,
gentlelady yield for 1 second?
Sure.
Would your
Mr. Chairman,
thank
the
you.
time.
Would your question be for all of these cases, not just the one that you were speaking of?
That is correct, for all of the injunctions that have been issued in these decisions around the country. And I also would ask
Mr. Chairman,
unanimous
time is expired.
I would ask unanimous consent to submit 2 articles for the record. 3 articles. One is the Wall Street Journal article. Another one is the article I was referencing earlier, as the U.S. tracks suspected Venezuelan gang members, a look at a group that's helping, and the executive order issued by President Trump.
Without objection, so ordered. We now go to the gentlelady from.
Because as always, the mainstream media won't give you the whole picture. We're talking about a gang called TDA, or Ten Draga. These aren't just common criminals. These are paramilitary trained operatives. 1,800 of them reportedly sent to our soil, and 300 trained directly by the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Let that sink in. According to police agencies in South America, not right-wing blogs, but actual law enforcement, these guys are not just pushing drugs. They're setting up a network, an operation. They are soldiers in what's been described as asymmetrical warfare against the United States. Folks, that's not just illegal immigration, that's an invasion. So President Trump, in true America First fashion, steps up and uses the Alien Enemies Act to deal with the threat. He signs an executive order on March 15th, calling it exactly what it is, a predatory incursion and a form of irregular warfare against the United States. That's real leadership. That's putting the American people first. But now, here comes the activist judiciary, doing what they've been doing for years, undermining the will of the American people and the authority of a duly elected president. Judge James Boasberg, a D.C. District Court judge, issues a temporary restraining order to block deportation flights, specifically carrying members of TDA. At first, it was limited to the named plaintiffs. Fine, that's how the courts usually work. But then he pulls a move that should raise red flags for every constitutional conservative in this country. He provisionally certifies a class for all non-citizens subject to Trump's order. Anyone in custody, possibly linked to TDA, is now shielded from removal. Here's the kicker. This was done before formally certifying a class. That violates Supreme Court precedent, folks. You can't give blanket relief until you've gone through the legal process of defining the class. This is straight-up judicial activism. The witness even referenced a Supreme Court case, Baxter v. Polano, where the court said this exact kind of reverse process is not allowed. So what we have here isn't just bad law, it's a dangerous abuse of judicial power. Now let's get into the second major problem. Under Rule 65 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, anyone seeking a restraining order or an injunction must post a bond, a financial security in case the order causes wrongful damage to the restrained party. Guess what? No bond was required. None. Zero. Nada. That's not just a technical error. That's a legal requirement. And if that requirement isn't met, the entire injunction is on shaky legal ground. It might be invalid. It might not even be enforceable. And yet, this judge, like others issuing nationwide injunctions, is allowing these rulings to go forward without following the law. So what's the real agenda here? Why are we protecting violent gang members tied to an enemy regime? Why are unelected judges overriding the president's power to protect the homeland? I'll tell you why. Because the radical left is more interested in undermining Trump than securing this nation. They would rather sabotage law enforcement, tie up our courts, and open the floodgates to chaos than admit President Trump did something right. We, the people, need to wake up. This isn't about immigration anymore. It's about invasion, about national security, and about preserving the rule of law. Our Constitution gives the president authority, especially in times of war or external threats, to protect the American people. And yet the left and their allies in the courts are stripping that authority away, piece by piece. So what can you do? Stay informed. Read the executive order. Read the Wall Street Journal article titled "Why Judge Boasberg's Deportation Order is Legally Invalid." Speak up. Contact your representatives and tell them, we need judicial accountability and strong borders. Support America First policies, because no nation can survive if it can't control who comes in and who goes out. We're a sovereign nation. We're a free people, and we have every right to defend our land, our laws, and our liberty from any threat, foreign or domestic. If you agree, like this video, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Because if we don't stand up now, we might not get another chance. Stay strong, stay patriotic, and God bless America.